If you've been into affordable watches for a while, the Islander brand probably needs no introduction. For a really long time, it was hard for me to justify purchasing an Islander. Most of the earlier models were Seiko homages, and I could get similar quality homages from AliExpress at much lower prices. But with their new original releases, I feel like Islander finally offers something very different to stand out from AliExpress brands. And this Islander Port Jefferson is one of them. This watch comes in at $415 from the Long Island Watch website. There are 3 other colorways besides the one I have. Those look a bit too colorful and out there for me, but if that's what you're looking for, just know that you have those options. I went with the salmon colorway because it looked like the most refined one of the bunch, for me. The case has that classic skin diver aesthetic that first became popular in the 1960s. The dimensions aren't exactly compact, but they're not oversized either. They're at a nice sweet spot that's going to fit the majority of wrist sizes. The side profile is incredibly slim, coming in at just 11.5mm, and that's including the slightly domed crystal. The slim case and curved lugs makes this very comfortable to wear. The watch feels planted against the wrist, and it has good balance, so you won't feel the watch head wobbling around while you're wearing it. The case is almost entirely brushed, and the brushing is fine and consistent. The polished bevels running down the lugs helps give this case a nice visual flair. Overall, the case finishing is really good. I'd say it's better than any Seiko you could find at this price point, but it's not quite up to the quality you get with newer San Martin, Suggest, or even Seaston watches. The screw-down crown is signed with the Islander logo, and the size makes it very easy to grip and operate. The glossy bezel insert is made from ceramic. It's a nice dark blue color that makes that salmon dial pop. The dive time markings are cleanly engraved and they're filled with Lume paint. This is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. The clicks are firm and tactile, and while there's no backplay, the bezel has some sort of spring mechanism that makes it pop back to the right position. This mechanism feels really similar to the Seaston CQ homage I reviewed a while back. On the downside, the bezel action felt really tight. The polished coin edge didn't really provide a ton of grip, so it was quite hard for me to rotate with my sweaty summer hands. If you like using your bezel as a fidget spinner, like I do, this is probably not going to be a fun bezel for you. The single dome crystal has a very subtle curve, and it gives off cool distortions from acute angles. There's an AR coating on the underside to help it deal with reflections, and it does a really good job of that. The blue hue on the AR is quite subtle. It looks like a clear AR in most lighting conditions, which is great, because it doesn't distract you from the lovely color on the dial. Speaking of the dial on this Port Jefferson is absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous shade that Islander calls sun-faded orange, but for all intents and purposes, it just looks like salmon to me. The dial has a subtle texture and just a bit of sheen to bring the whole thing to life. The color match date wheel is a lovely touch. It really adds to the cohesive look. They could have easily used a standard white date wheel, but the fact that they went through the trouble to match the dial color just has to be commended. The applied chapter ring looks like it's made from brass, and I like how that brass color complements the salmon and blue shades on the watch. Now onto the logo. Some people like it and others just can't stand it. Whichever side you're on, you're probably going to like the logo execution on this model. The white print looks very subtle against the salmon dial, so if you don't like it, you won't really notice it. And if you do like it, you'll know that it's there. It's really a win-win situation. The applied indices are very three-dimensional. They're basically huge borderless blocks of lume, and there's a black line painted in the middle to help with legibility. These indices add a ton of dimensionality to the dial. I always thought the handsets on Islander models look flat and boring, but that's not the case here. The hour and minute hand on the Port Jefferson are chunky, and they have a nice brush finish with polished bevels. Like the Indices, there's also a black line that goes down the middle to help with legibility. The second hand is painted in a faded dark blue that doesn't grab too much attention, and the whole handset looks and feels very proportionate to the dial. All in, this is an extremely well executed dial. They really got the colors and design details spot on with this. Everything is just so cohesive and very nice to look at. The green C3 lume glows like a torch and it easily lasts the entire night. Even in the dark, the indices look very cool with that black line running down the middle. The bezel insert is lumed, and in case you haven't spotted it, the logo is also lumed. Really nicely done. The movement powering this watch is the Miyota 9015, which is how they've managed to make this case as slim as it is. I really love Miyota 9 series movements. The ones I've owned have always been very accurate, and this smooth second-hand sweep is always nice to see, especially if you have a bunch of other watches with the lower beat and H35 movement. The rotor noise on these movements puts off some people, but I didn't really notice it much on this unit. I think the case does a good job of dampening that noise. The beads of rice bracelet tapers down from 20mm at the lugs to 18mm at the clasp. I'm not usually a fan of this style of bracelet, but I think it ties in well with the skin diver look. The links have good articulation and they're held in by screws, so it was really easy to size this to my wrists. The end links fit quite snugly into the lugs. There was absolutely no gap or play in them. The bracelet feels solid and comfortable, but I don't like the generic milk clasp they use, both in form and function. It takes away from the refined look of the case and bracelet, and those 3 adjustment positions might not be enough to get you a perfect fit. I got lucky with the fit on mine, but your mileage may vary. It's not a big issue for me though. You can easily source a better aftermarket clasp to replace this for about $20 on AliExpress. So to sum up, what do I think of the Port Jefferson? It's been great to see the evolution of Islander over the years, and I'm really liking the direction they're heading in with these original designs. The Port Jefferson is a great summer watch, especially in this salmon colorway. You can tell that there was a lot of attention to detail and thought put into this design, and it really shows. This watch has one of those harmonious designs that puts a smile on my face every time I look at it. Of course, there are some areas that can be improved, but you're getting a really good package for the price point. If you want the absolute best value for money, and you don't really mind homages, the top tier AliExpress brands still offer a better bang for the buck. But besides originality, there's one thing you get with this Port Jefferson that no AliExpress brand even comes close to, and that's customer service. The Islander definitely gives you much more peace of mind.